Manchester United are undergoing structural changes above Eric Ten Hag, and rumours and paper talk claims that Manchester United will spend big in the summer, with Omar Berrada, Jason Wilcox and Dan Ashworth calling the shots. The question is, will Ten Hag still be the manager or will Ineos replace him? What is the plan? That is what most Manchester United fans are asking on the socials, but also asking us on this channel. Will Harry Maguire, will Linderlof, will Tyrel Malacia, Luke Shaw, Varane, Casemiro, Antony, Rashford, Scott McTominay leave in the summer? Very important question. And who is Manchester United looking to bring in? We're going to talk in this video about the left back positions, centre back, midfield, right winger, and who is the secret striker. Let's find out, as we have a very special guest speaking to us today. We are going to talk to the United correspondent, the journalist and a special friend of our channel, the brilliant Anil Kandola. But there is always a big but. Before we bring in Anil Kandola to the stage, I want you to do three things. Please smash that like button. Please subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and most important thing of all, hit that notification button and personalize it so you never miss an upload or a video or a live stream from us. Buckle up, let's do this. Are you ready? Here we go.
Has the Premier League ever been more challenging?
Wel, I feel welcome. Dit is mijn home and I want to achieve success. Okay?
Hey, somebody's at the door. Oh, Anil Kandola, how you doing, my friend? Long time no speak.
Hello,
how you doing, buddy?
Hello, mate. All good. Thank you. Just want to apologise. It's been a while, hasn't it, since I've sat down with yourself to talk Manchester United, but I'm really excited for today's show. Hopefully we can get through plenty of stuff and interact with some of your brilliant fans.
Yeah, big up. It has been a hot minute, my friend. Last time I think we spoke was in the January window, I think.
Yeah, which is crazy, isn't it? The time flies, but as you know, Mick, in this industry, it's always non-stop, isn't it? There's never a time for a bit of a break, is there?
Never stop. Yeah. Listen, I'm going to start with an icebreaker question. What I always ask my fans, of the channel, the subscribers, and everyone that comes here. How does it feel to be a Manchester United supporter today, Anil? Especially with the structure that's going on and the results on the pitch.
Yeah, I think one small phrase can really summarise how it feels to be a Manchester United fan at the moment, which is up in the air. I think, at the start of the season, it was a case of Man United fans being really confident with Eric Ten Hag. And as the season's unfolded, there's been question marks, to say the least, over his head from a lot of fans, if we're being totally honest. And then, of course, you add, just this really small factor of Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming into Manchester United and, basically wanted to change the face of the club, not just obviously the player side of things, but also from the structure perspective as well as the stadium. There's going to be some big changes, and I'm sure we'll get into some of those. But I think it's just a crazy time, isn't it? As it always is, being a Manchester United fan. And I think hopefully anyway, as we'll try to do today, United fans are just trying to look for some clarity, aren't they? So, yeah, it's a really crazy time. But then, Mick, let's be honest, when is it not a crazy time to be a Manchester United fan?
Yeah, there's never one day we can sort of relax and enjoy ourselves and just be fans without reading what's going on in the media by certain media apparatus. We're not going to mention names. We know who they are. But big up for everyone in the VR room. You know who you are. You can see yourself over there. You can see the chat. And please, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe if you haven't. It looks like this is a thumbs up button. Press that like button right now. Let's aim to get over to 100 likes. If you do so, I might give away a little bit of a cheeky gift. Let's kick on the show, and big up for everyone that's tuning in. Anil, I know we're a little bit pressed for time, so I'm not going to waste your time as well. If we might have 35 minutes, according to your opinion.
Yeah. We'll see how it gets going. We'll try and push it as long as we can, Mick. But yeah, around about 35 minutes, all good with me, my friend. All good.
We're not the Glazers to kick the can as far as we can, right? No. Listen, Anil, I want to pick your brain regarding the FFP, right? It's been a problem for United, right? And many other clubs in the Premier League. We've seen points deduction for Everton. We've seen that the looming of the Manchester City kicking down the can as far as they can. New rulings has been set and voted that clubs can, used to be able to spend 75% of the general revenue is now being increased to 85%. being put in place for the summer. How is this affecting the summer window for United spending, and what do you think the transfer policy will be? What is the overall plan?
Yeah, so it's going to be a very difficult season or summer, should I say, to operate and manoeuvre in, not just for Manchester United, but for all clubs, really. I think the prime example in these situations, Newcastle, they've got riches and then riches on top of the riches, but they've still got to be very, very specific. They've got to be very direct and careful, essentially, with the way that they spend some money. So if a club like that, arguably and most likely the richest club in the world, have to be very careful in the way that they spend money, then teams like Manchester United, irrespective of size of the club in terms of a financial perspective, then they're going to have to be even more careful. With Manchester United in particular, though, I think in terms of the summer window, it's going to be one of them things where I think that ultimately European football is a massive factor. I think if they get the
It
Champions
is.
League, it will give them a little bit of breathing space, to say the least, in terms of being able to spend a little bit. And I think one big thing that we will start to see, not just with Manchester United potentially, but with most clubs, is to see them enter the market and get these savvy types of deals over the line. Ross Barkley, whatever you think of him in terms of a deal, it will be very attractive. I believe that he's out of contract in the summer. He
Yeah.
won't cost anything from that front in terms of paying a club.
Squad
And
player.
exactly, and wages as well. It's not going to be an extortionate amount, and to get someone in of his experience, a lot of people would be open to that. Myself, probably not so when it comes to Ross Barkley in specific,
No.
but that is just an example of the type of business that Manchester United will probably do. Another name that I've heard this week is Kieran Dewsbury Hall from Leicester.
Yeah.
He's had a brilliant season for the Foxes this year. He's been one of their most instrumental players. I think he's got over 10 goals and over
Yeah.
10 assists in the
No,
season. So he's
it's
played
very
really
interesting.
well. And again, if Leicester fail to go up with, of course, their issues with financial fair play as well, you could get him at a cut price of 25 million potentially. And
Yeah.
again, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
these are
Yeah.
the types of, deals that we'll start to see. And ultimately, as I say, even if Manchester United do get European football, it's still going to be something that's going to be heavily reliant on sales. They need to have outgoings if they want to bring in a significant amount of incomings.
Speaking about that, there's 2 points that I want to dissect what you just said. Just right now, MUFC BP just tweeted out that there will be no problem if Manchester United qualify into the Champions League, but with the Nice also qualifying. Because I keep saying that media keeps saying Ineos is owner of Manchester United, which is not. It's Trawlers Limited, total separate entity owned by privately funded by Ratcliffe, to be honest. So there will never be a problem regarding that. But it was just coming out today. So even fifth can give you a Champions League. I think we are drumming. I think we are focused. There's 10 remaining games of the season. Everyone looks laser sharp. We're playing Brentford over the weekend. But in terms of the FFP, right? The word on the street, what I heard, that Everton might face another points deduction for breaching the FFP. So there'll be bargains to pick up there. And we're going to talk about certain targets from Everton as well. But also in terms of Fulham, right? Fulham has this brilliant, I think, left-sided fullback. His name is, what was his name?
Robinson.
Robinson. Yes, Anthony Robinson. He is brilliant, and he can go for 25 million. So that is something that I believe could happen. What I've been hearing on the market, you can concur, is that Manchester United are looking at the generational shift. They're building a team for the future. They're not going to go and sign those Galacticos. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that the days of signing those Galactico 100 million pound signings are over. The only one that can do that at the moment, and the only one that I can see doing it, is Real Madrid. What's your thoughts regarding that?
Yeah, for sure. I think Real Madrid's a perfect example when we're talking about, of course, these £100 million players. They're the team that we've known ever since we started watching football, isn't it, Mick? That they do go out and buy the very best players. None of this, I know. Obviously, more recently they've started to go in a slightly different route for obviously rebuilding their midfield in particular, and also going for a certain Kylian Mbappe. It should have been Man United, but it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Mm.
I think it's again, like you said, these £100 million players. I think, look, if teams have got the money to spend there, we'll see it happen. Declan Rice to Arsenal was 100 million, but
Oh, yeah.
again, it's because, of course, the Champions League qualification really helped them out, and it's again something that if teams could do it, they would. But as you say, it's going to be something that's going to be a lot rarer, if that makes sense. It's going to be something that
Yeah.
happens hardly compared to what it used to in the years gone by. So yeah, you spot on there, Mick, in terms of the type of player from a financial perspective. Anyway, Manchester United will go for, and I think, look, as you say, this FFP stuff now, that's getting teams very scared, very careful of the way that they're spending money. You know, there will be bargains there to offer, because if a team is on the wrong end of a punishment, it affects their survival in a certain division.
Mm,
They get relegated and they need to raise funds, not only to rebuild the squad, but also to address
interesting.
their FFP.
Yeah,
Then
interesting.
there's going to be deals to be made out there.
Interesting. With Omar Berrada coming on as a CEO from City, we've seen clips and videos of how he sits down and talks and looks at the budget, looks at the player profile. We will not overpay. That's what I'm thinking. So I see a structure where we are more likely to scout in the Brazilian or South American grassroots leagues everywhere to find those hidden gems. And the proof in the pudding will be there. Actually, Sir Jim Ratcliffe said that in the interview when he had that interview with Sky Cycling. He said basically, quote, "We are not looking to buy the Mbappe, right? We're looking to create or find the next Mbappe," which gives away a little bit where the recruitment policy and strategy will be taking place. Looking at players under 26 for and offer them 3-4 years contract is more feasible than what we used to do, offering a 29-year-old or 30-year-old striker a 3-4 year contract. I think that Brailsford has had his strategic review. I think that he said, look, if we're going to turn the page, we're going to definitely focus on the youth.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a. I think one thing to really understand and consider is, of course, Sir Jim Ratcliffe entered the process of acquiring a percentage of Manchester United fundamentally not because of money, because in terms of business, he's an incredibly successful businessman. He's a billionaire, British billionaire, which doesn't come around too often. But ultimately, the reason why, and is what we're being told anyway, that he got involved with Manchester United in the first place because he's a Manchester United fan. And of course, he often refers to, the class of 92 to be bringing in these players that aren't at a huge astronomical fee, and they almost allow themselves to blossom within the Manchester United team, and by that process leading to success not only for the individual but also for the team collectively. So you can
Yeah,
start to gauge and really understand what Sir Jim Ratcliffe is looking for. I think he's trying to bring back the old Manchester United where it wasn't
I love that.
necessarily bringing in, which is bringing in obviously these younger players through the academy
Yeah,
system, but also signing players. Cristiano Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney, although they were getting a lot of attention at that age, they were still very raw. They still had so much to prove, and again, they allowed themselves to have a brilliant career at Manchester United, which of course
yeah,
benefited the club as well. So I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe will certainly try and go down that route, but not without the help of the likes of Omar
yeah.
Berrada and co. So
No,
yeah, I think, as you say,
true,
we do
true.
have an indication there, don't we?
I mean, since it's almost Easter, like, there's a saying, who came first, the egg or the chicken or the egg? And that is pretty much what he's referring to, right? So instead of going out and buying that 100 million or 150 million pound striker or midfielder, for that money, you can get like 4 players. And that is very, very exciting policy. Um, if we're looking at bringing up the youth from the under 18s and under 21s, there's so many good quality players coming up the range. We're talking about Shea Lacey that signed his first professional contract. I've been hearing that he's going to be involved in the squad in the pre-summer tour as well. We have Harry Amas. We have this Russian kid. What's his name? Abramovich or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah, yeah.
and the Fletcher twins. There is such abundance of talents coming up. So they keep saying that this is our class of 92 coming in 2024, to be honest. But here's the crux. We are saving ourselves abundance of money. Look at Kobe Maynor, right? He's an academy produced product. He is right now on the market, very sought after. The characteristics, the way he's, carrying the ball, he's worth 100 million approximately if you would sell him right now. So basically, we are selling ourselves, or we're saving ourselves 100 million just by bringing in those talents that everyone wants. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Like you said, players like Kobe Manu, they don't come around often when you talk about coming through the academy process. Of course, a lot of players come through with high potential and a lot of sort of gossip about them and how far they could go in their careers. But the way that Kobe Manu has transitioned
Oh
into
yeah,
senior football is something like
absolutely brilliant. He's playing today, I think, right?
Yeah, I
England is
believe
playing.
so. The whispers anyway, that is, of course, if you read the back pages as well of the newspapers, that Kobe Manu is set to start for England, and you think within the space of 6 months he's had a Premier League debut, FA Cup debut, and also an England debut for a start
Yeah,
as well. Added on top of that, a last-minute winner against Wolves in the Premier League as well. So within the space of 6 months, I think he's really shown that if Manchester United and England
brilliant,
believe in him, he
brilliant.
could be at the heart of the
Yeah,
midfield for many years to come.
it's exciting if you look at the overall squad, the youngsters that we have. We're talking about Garnacho, we're talking about Hoyland, we're talking about
Mm.
Maino, we're talking about bringing Willie Kouambala, Dangor Jr. There's so much talent out there, and also Alvaro Fernandez is kind of playing out in Benfica on loan. We have such a big squad, and that's what we need to compete at the end of the day. Like, you want to create like competition for places. You want to have a headache in terms of selection, but you also want to have a big squad when you come into this sort of 10 games left of the Premier League to be able to compete, not having those injuries, mate. So big up, big up, big up. Listen, at the end of the day, guys, that in the VR room, Anil, you can pick any questions there, but please leave your questions. You can see each other in the VR room. And don't forget, very important, hit that thumbs up, like button, because I'm going to transition over to the next story, barring that we are pressing for time. Anil, in terms of squad overhaul, like, famously said by Ragnick, we need an open heart surgery. And I believe we are starting to see that, right? The method to the madness is that if you look at what Arteta did, right, when he got the job, he finished 2 seasons in a row on the 8th place, and people were calling for his head. Now, during this period, on the 3rd season, he managed to get rid of all his dead woods and start playing, implemented the players that he wanted. We're talking about Shaka, we're talking about Lacazette, we're talking about Bam Bam, Rubber Bam Bam, Aubameyang, and stuff like that. But, in terms of who do you see leaving the club in the summer, because it's not going to happen over light switch. It's going to probably take 2 transfer windows to get them over the line. And who do you see leaving the club in the summer? And what is the future for Jadon Sancho and Mason Greenwood? Long question.
Yeah, of course. We'll try our best to dissect it as always, Mick. But I think, look, first and foremost, I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said, and I've got this on quite good source as well, that he sees it as a 5 transfer window plan. He sees it as 3 summers and 2 winters. That's how the way he's looking at it. He's thinking to himself that within that time, he's not. And the quote that I was given was, he doesn't see it as a 10-year plan, but he doesn't see it as a 1-year plan either. So he understands that Manchester United fans are becoming impatient. They need to see some significant changes, but then also good things take time. All of the best teams, even Pep Guardiola at Manchester City, with all the
Yeah,
money he spent
100%.
in that first season, he didn't win a single trophy. So, even the best of the best still take a lot of time. If we move on now to obviously the summer transfer window, I think in terms of this one coming up now, in terms of all the players that are potentially safe at Manchester United, I would put very, very small names and numbers on that list. And the reason why I would do that is because, of course, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe came in and Ineos came into Manchester United, they said that everyone was on review. And that doesn't just mean of a board level. That doesn't just mean
Mhm.
the off the pitch stuff. That includes all of the players as well. So again, we can look at a situation where I think if the right money comes in for pretty much any of the football players at Manchester United at the moment, at the very minimum, the new leadership of Ineos will consider it, at least consider it.
Yeah,
So again, as I say, it could be an incredibly busy summer. I think if we're being optimistic, I think if Man United bring in 4 players and sell 6 players, I think that's a phenomenal window. I think that's some
that
really good
is.
business. They've
That
brought in
is.
4 players in terms of starting this new era, but then also getting rid of the ones from yesteryear and all of the managers that Manchester United have had since
Yeah.
Sir Alex Ferguson. And if you can't, Mr. I was going to call him Sir Johnny Evans then, I think one day maybe,
Sir
but
Johnny Evans.
I
Yeah, he
think
could be lauded.
if you count Johnny Evans, then there's actually a player from each different reign of managers at Manchester United still to this day.
Yeah.
We're 10 years since Sir Alex Ferguson stepped down, and we've still got an individual from that era. So
Yeah, I
look,
know.
as you say,
Mad.
it's crazy, isn't it? So you still got to have a lot of planning and a lot of things to sort of get in the way in terms of being able to really start that new era. We'll go through the names that you've just said now as well, Mick. So with Jadon Sancho, we'll start with him. Jadon Sancho, he absolutely loves being in Dortmund. He feels very welcome, and
They can
comfort
keep
is
him.
a big
They can keep him.
and comfort is a very big thing for Jadon Sancho. He wants to feel like he's being loved, and he wants to feel like he's appreciated, which is completely fair enough. You know, at any walk of life, you at the very minimum, when it comes to your job, whatever job you have, you want to feel like you're valued. You want to feel like you're bringing something to the table. So that's completely understandable. I think the big thing with Jadon Sancho and the real understanding we'll get in terms of his future is the future of Eric Ten Hag. So if Eric Ten Hag is the Manchester United manager next season, there is absolutely no chance, and I'll stand by this, there is no way Jadon Sancho will play for Manchester United again. For
No.
as long as Eric Ten Hag is there, he will not put on another Manchester United shirt. The relationship is too damaged, too broken, and from both sides, potentially, there's far too much stubbornness for them to really rekindle their working
But
relationship and
but
allow
also
someone
broken
to
from
come in.
broken from the fans' trust as well. Like, you know.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. You know, Jadon Sancho, Manchester United fans were very, very loyal with him, as they are with all of their players, really. But for one reason or the other, it hasn't worked out. And I think the way that he went public in terms of, you know, responding on social
Mm,
media and
you
pinning
don't
his
do that.
tweet, which, you know, it's really unprofessional, isn't it? I think, as I say again, you know, any walk of life, any job, if you're doing that, you're going to have to face the repercussions.
Yeah,
But
true,
if
true.
we're in a situation where Eric Ten Hag isn't the manager at Manchester United, I'm under the understanding that Jadon Sancho would be open to coming back to United, not in the idea of going, right, I'm going to go straight back into the team, but in terms of having a summer, having a pre-season with Manchester United. If Eric Ten Hag isn't the manager, Jadon Sancho does see there's a potential route, which is
Yeah.
why he hasn't completely shut the door on returning to Manchester United.
We might as well just address that elephant in the room right there, right now, regarding Eric Ten Hag, because there's been a lot of speculations, and I kept saying nothing is going to happen. Even Ornstein was saying that, you know, they haven't even got that far yet to assess the manager because they're so busy to putting the structure in place first, right? And then they will address the manager in the summer. Now, I'm not going to talk about Southgate. You know, screw that. That was just, you know, the papers doing our minds as what they do. But I think, and I keep hearing that he's going to be remaining for the rest of the season as well, because they're not going to rip up that tree and putting a new manager unless Omar Berrada comes in the summer and say, I have a different plan.
Yeah, yeah. So I think with Eric Ten Hag in terms of his safety, you know, the phrase "he has a stay of execution" is running around in the media mill at the moment. He will get to the end of the season. I think if Ineos were to come in a little bit earlier, for example, potentially in December, or you know, when Manchester United really were struggling in terms of the performances on the pitch, this could be a different story and a different conversation we're having. But you know, the way that it's unfolded, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos have made it very, very clear, even probably before they were actually confirmed as part owners of Manchester United, that they want to build from the top down rather than the other
Yeah,
way around. They
yeah,
want to get, as you've just said there, Mick, they want to get the right people, the best in class people in the positions, in the roles that they want them at the club, so then that can allow them to make the footballing decisions,
yeah.
which ultimately, whatever you think of Sir Jim Ratcliffe and whatever you think of his part ownership, that's what Manchester United fans really want, isn't it? To have proper footballing brains in and around the club.
Yeah. Here comes a reality check, right? Appointing the best in class manager and also looking at what the plan is, what they want to do. They want to bring in youth, they want to play, like, you know, expensive football. And if that's the case, there's been saying that he's not going to have a say in the transfer window. Of course, he's going to have a say. That's part of a
Yeah,
manager's job.
yeah,
But his job is going to be more focused on developing the team, right? And
yeah.
managing his coaches and staff and analytics and all around the Carrington training ground and stuff like that. But if that is the plan, Ten Hag is the man, because that's what he does. Like, just look what he's done at Ajax. He only promoted youth, played with youth. He came to United. He gave Kobe Mainoo a chance. He gave Forsen a chance. He gave Kwambala a chance. He brought up Garnacho and so many more, right, on the bench as well. So for me, if he's been given a platform to say that, okay, now Sir Jim Ratcliffe said it himself, it's not always the coach's fault. It hasn't been the structure, right? We have award-winning CVs. Jose Mourinho wasn't backed. You know, Louis van Gaal, Ole, who was never supposed to be the manager. When Ole came, he had, like, you know, PA teachers, novice, you know,
Mm,
co-assistant coaches, McKenna. What else was it? McKenna and what was his name? Even Amas and Mickey
yeah,
Phelan that was
yeah,
leaning on the brick wall and stuff like that. So it was never meant to be successful. But however, I certainly believe with the right structure above the manager, calling the shots, the director of football is speaking to the manager regarding transfer targets in combination of a consensus to agree which target we will go for. Like, why would you spend 65 million on Brentwaite where you can pay 40 million for this Brazilian center defender, right? Much, much cheaper, similar attributes. I think that's been missing at United, of course, right? Because
Yeah,
if you look at the current structure before this happened, right? Who has Ten Hag been leaning on? John Murtough? Sorry. Darren Fletcher, Cone Layer, and Joel Glazer. Can you imagine those having a conversation? So no wonder he's been having, the veto to say, "You guys don't understand football. Let me have my say in the recruitment." But
Mm.
however, I believe that that's going to be the case, though. But in terms of the outs, one thing is for sure, and I want to pick your brain. We know that Anthony Martial is leaving 100%. That's 300k off the wage bill, right? Johnny Evans most likely will retire, right? Who else are we? Christian Eriksen, also on high wages, 250 a week. Um, I think there's controversials regarding if a right offer comes in for Scott McTominay, they will listen to it, right? Because I put my hand up. I was the one, saying we should sell Scott McTominay in the summer. He's been there at the club for years and years and years, but he hasn't been consistent. For me, you can keep him if he's a spot player, like if he's a rotational player coming off the bench, but he's not a starter. You can argue to the point he's not good enough, but he comes in and does a job. But I don't want him to stop the development of the academy players coming in, right? And that's the thing. Apparently, it was reported like he's on 60k a week, and there was a report to say they're going to renew his contract and bumper it up to 120. What's your thought on that? Would you sell McTominay? Will you sell Maguire if you get an offer in? And who else would you sell?
Yeah, well, I think it's a brilliant point that you make there about Scott McTominay, and this is a really, really interesting situation surrounding a player at Manchester United at the moment. And the reason why I say that is because if we're talking about Ineos and if we're talking about the types of players that they want to go for, it is hardworking, young, reasonably young
Yes,
British
technical player.
individuals who understand what it is to play for
Not
Manchester
only
United.
British, not only British,
Yeah, not only
not
British, but I think if they had a preference, I think it probably would
Premier
be
League
British.
proven. Yeah,
Yeah. And I think with Scott McTominay, it's very interesting because, as I say, he fits the mold of the type of player that Ineos would like to go for. So again, as you say, it's really difficult because if you're starting Scott McTominay in your midfield for the whole of the season, if we're being brutally honest, you're not going to win a major trophy. But then it almost contradicts itself at that point, doesn't it? Considering how important and influential he's been for Manchester United this season, it's one of the really,
yeah.
really crazy things, and it summarises Manchester United perfectly, doesn't it, of how confusing things can be. Because
He's
this
been very
player, if we start
professional. He's been very
exactly, if we
professional.
start him every single week, it's not going to happen. But then when he's been brought off the bench, he's really doing a number, and he's stepped up with some big, important, and late goals. And these types of things will remind Ineos of the success of yesteryear, to have hard-working individuals and have players off the bench who come in and never complain and never moan. You only have to look at Roy Keane's recent comments on this on a podcast where they had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, where Roy
Mm,
Keane said that when he was at Manchester United, the most respect that he had wasn't for the starting 11. It was for the squad players who knew that they weren't going to start every week. But every time they did come onto the pitch, they thought to themselves and they knew, what, I've got a job to do
brilliant.
here. I'm going to contribute to the team. And Scott McTominay fits that bill. You can never ever question his sort of his understanding of Manchester United. You can tell by his press conferences and the words that he says within the media that he does understand what it means to play for Man United. And as you've said, Mick, he's been there for a long time. So
Right.
it's going to be a very interesting one. But as I said at the start of the show today, Mick, that if the right money comes in for pretty much, I'm struggling to think of any player, but if the right money comes in for any of them players at Manchester United at the moment, at the
They
very
will listen.
minimum, they will consider and they will
Yeah.
listen to that offer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that one's going to be a really interesting one that I do think
Yeah.
will give us a good indication as to what Ineos's plans are going to be.
Okay. I'm going to go quickly because I'm pressed on time here with you. In a certain way, it looks like United is going to be improving themselves on, selling players rather than giving them away for free. So that's a major important thing. Mason Greenwood, reports coming out to say that Manchester United wants 57 million euros for him. You reckon that's a good price, or do you reckon it's a bad price? I think he's worth more.
Yeah, of course, of course. It's a very difficult one if we're completely talking about the footballing aspect. Off the pitch stuff. We all know what happened. We all know what was going on in that situation, which is why it makes this situation bigger than football in terms of having the politics, if we're being totally honest, surrounding the situation. And I think, look, it's very easy for us Manchester United fans, and I agree, Mick, that we see Greenwood as an £100 million player because, of course, before all of the off the pitch stuff occurred, we saw a player in probably a more extreme way than we see Kobe Manu now, in terms of just simply knowing and simply feeling that this kid is going to be the future of Manchester United and potentially his
Yeah,
country as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
We saw exactly all of his traits. Left foot, right foot. He's quick. His finishing is some of the best I think I've ever seen at that age from pretty much anyone,
Mm.
from whether that's 5 yards out or 35 yards out. This boy can really hit a ball and get it in the back of the net. But then we have to obviously factor in a couple of things here. So one, I think what's going to be a big factor in terms of bringing that price down to what Man United fans would really want would be the fact that he's only been back in the footballing picture for a season. B,
But
he's
he's
at a
ripping up
club.
the trees in
Yeah,
Gaddafi.
he's absolutely doing brilliantly. But then also we've got to look at it and say, ultimately, the situation that surrounds him, whether or not clubs will actually care about that is almost irrelevant because they will use that as a bargaining chip, as a way of
Mm.
saying, well, look, we know you want X amount of money for him, but we also know that we're signing up potentially for some bad PR or some negative questions
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
media.
yeah.
So I think
Fine.
that will be used against him no matter what happens in terms of
I
a
think so.
Manchester United perspective.
I think
So
so.
yeah, I think look, if he doesn't have a future at Manchester United, if it's not going to work out, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe will stay with the club's initial decision of basically sort of ostracizing him
Yeah.
from the club, then you're going to have to sell him, and ultimately he's an academy product. So if you do sell him, it's 100% profit, which also helps with FFP as well.
I go with the MUFC Charlie here in the chat as well. Greenwood, 50 million, all clubs wanting him. It's all about demand at the end of the day that drives the price as well. But, however, from a footballing perspective, from a financial perspective, selling Greenwood will generate 50 million pure profit because he's a homegrown talent, right? So that's
Yeah,
straight into the profit books. But on the other hand, we've been heavily linked with a right winger in Olise from Crystal Palace, which
yeah.
they want to sort of have approximately £55 million for. But I'm saying, if I'm comparing Olise with Greenwood, Greenwood is the better footballer.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think I don't even think it takes. I don't even fit. Like you know me, Mick. I won't hesitate to say anything controversial if I feel it's true. But I don't think that's a really big statement. I think you're absolutely spot on there. I think Greenwood is in terms of availability. He very rarely had any injury concerns. He was available a lot of the time when he was at Manchester United. And in terms of the on the field ability, I think Greenwood ultimately offers a lot more.
Mm.
But I'll go back to it, mate. At the end of the day, if Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to have so many more things to worry about, not just with the players, not just with the hierarchical structure, but also the structure of Old Trafford. This guy is ambitious enough to think that he can build another Old
Yeah,
Trafford, which
yeah,
which is going to take a lot of time to not only get done, but also to convince all the Man United fans.
yeah.
And I just don't know whether or not he would welcome another situation, another
I
potential
th-
issue to
I
worry
think
about.
they
I'm
are
unsure.
looking at. I think they might be looking at the possibility because he said that, like, they're not mugs, they're professional, right? Because let's face it, the current hierarchy with Colette Roche as well, like, and has been leading the HR and operations, been absolutely shambles. That led to Richard Arnold getting sacked as well because they conducted the investigation, they found no breaches of dismissal or anything else, and they went to Ten Hag to say you're going to keep him, and somebody leaked out the information to the press. So there is a moral standpoint versus what you've seen and what actually is the fact. In certain ways, I don't look at that way. I look at it from a pure footballing perspective, and I see, hang on a second, if we are in this tight budget, if we're going to focus on youth, why buy or lease it when you already have an in-house talent that is contractually yours, and you don't have to pay any penny for him, right? He's the future. But the thing is, a lot of clubs are after him right now. Juve, Real Madrid, Real, what do you call it, Atletico.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is going to create a lot of tension. So I believe that that's going to be the talk of the transfer window when it comes to that one. So I think it's just the beginning of it in that story, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So Harry Maguire, sell keep. You think?
Yeah, I think it's time to sell Harry Maguire. Not just necessarily because of his output on the pitch, but I feel like he's one of the players that it's very clear that Manchester United would be open to selling, even under the previous ownership or the footballing structure, should we call it, rather than the ownership, because of course the Glazers are still there. But I think that this is a player who Man United will probably look at and think, right, we do need to sign some centre backs. Where can we generate some money from in that particular position? And even so, anywhere else on the pitch, I think Harry Maguire is an asset. And at the end of the day, he's an attractive footballer for clubs in terms of bringing them in. He can do a job. He's obviously got a lot of criticism in the last couple of years, some quite harsh, if we're being perfectly
Yeah,
honest.
but
And
he's been
let's say,
improved. He's been improved
yeah,
a lot this season, to be
for sure,
honest.
he's been a lot more reliable than he did last year. I think the incident in Mykonos where he got into a bit of
Yeah,
trouble, I think that really rocked him mentally,
that
and it was
yeah,
quite difficult
true,
for him to recover. So I think this
true,
year you start to see a little bit
true.
of a better Harry Maguire. So I think again that helps Manchester United because it will drive the price up. England international, he will be starting at the
Yeah,
Euros,
yeah.
whether we like it or not.
Ho- So if West Ham comes in for him again, make him captain, offer 40 million, take it, take the money. But it's also down to Harry Maguire what he wants to do as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So I've been hearing that we are looking for two centre backs. That's what I've
Yeah,
been hearing. And the ones that are on the chopping block, the United are open to listen to bids for. It's Lindelof, Harry Maguire, and Raphael Varane. Now, Raphael Varane, for me, it's he's coming to the end of this contract in the summer. There was some reports saying that United are in negotiation to sort of offer him a pay cut, right, to retire United. But that story was debunked for Fabrizio Romano to say that there's been no such negotiations. But what if he will take a pay cut? Will you keep him?
do you know what? I think one myth that we need to really start to debunk about Raphael Varane is his availability. And I think, look, in previous years, especially last season, we couldn't rely on him really and truthfully because there were several injuries. But he hasn't missed that many games this season at all. He has been very reliable.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I know.
a good chunk of the games that he has missed is because of the fact that Eric Ten Hag was dropping him. He wasn't playing him. And there was obviously a few rumours, weren't there, that there was some issue between them, and whatever happens behind closed doors, we'll never really know. But ultimately, he's been available for Manchester United, I think more so than the likes of Harry Maguire this season. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that Johnny Evans is the only centre-half at Man United that's been more available than Raphael Varane.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
still think there's a player in there. If you're talking about a squad player, I think that's absolutely brilliant to have someone like that, not only coming off the bench and having them as a rotational option, but also
In
if they
terms of
do bring in
leadership.
a younger centre half who's going to learn, I think, look, the prime example is just in front of them in the midfield that, Kobe Mino playing alongside Casemiro, who everyone thinks, is on the wane at least, is going to be invaluable experience because at the end of the day, Casemiro is arguably the greatest holding midfielder to ever
Yeah.
play in that role. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
the experience, the knowledge, the understanding of the game from his perspective, passing it on to the younger generation is as I say, is priceless. So I
All
think
right.
there potentially would be something there for Varane to stay, even if he takes a pay cut. But when Saudi Arabia are coming in the way that they are, it's going to be
Yeah,
very
but he doesn't
difficult.
want to go to Saudi. He wants to finish in a top flight European club, and
Yeah,
he
yeah, he
really
said that, didn't
what?
he? Yeah. So I think
Yeah,
it'll be a difficult one.
I would love to keep Varane 100% because of his leadership attributes and what you said. Like he and Johnny Evans been carrying this team this whole season, right? While we've been struggling, so
We should
100%.
have been saying that line about 10 years ago, Mick. That Varane
Oh,
and
jeez,
Johnny Evans are
jeez.
our centre half
Yeah.
partnership. But look,
But Johnny
look,
Evans hats off, Johnny Evans hats off, what a legend. So if he retires, 100% we need to bring in centre backs. I believe Maguire, if an offer comes in for Maguire, sayonara, Lindelof, sayonara, but that means that we got to replace as well. We're going to talk about that centre back position right here, right now, as well as we are pressing for time. It's been reported that we are looking for two centre backs. And based on that, I want to pick your brains regarding the hotometer regarding that. Let's start with the right-footed centre back. Gleison Bremer, it's been heavily scouted, heavily reported everywhere that he might be the Raphael Varane replacement, but depending on what happens to Raphael Varane. And did you know that they have the same agent?
oh wow, do they?
Yeah, CA-based agent, same. So the same agent represent both Bremer and Raphael Varane. So, or we have Antony Silva from Benfica. I don't think that's one is going to happen. You know how Benfica are with selling players. They're going to mug us off with 100 million. Todibo or Tapsoba.
Yeah. These are several names that I've heard all of them as well myself, Mick. We'll start with Burma. Obviously, I've spoke to a couple of people on not only the MUFC MPB channel that I do work for, but also dropping a few private messages to a couple of people that I know. And I think, look, the Burma one again. Unfortunately, I think this fits into the mould of a player using the club and the stature of Manchester United, not just to potentially get a bumper contract at the current club, but to get a move somewhere else. And I think, look, maybe under the old stewardship, I think this is something that I was told as well only just a couple of days ago, that the previous ownership of Manchester United, from a footballing perspective, there were conversations about Bremer, there were conversations that showed that there was a level of interest in the player. But again, I go back to what I was saying earlier, Mick, that this type of profile of player, I think he's 28, he'd be 29 by the time he joins Man United if he does come in, to pay the potential fee of over 50, 60 million potentially for someone who you're going to have to replace in a few years' time, doesn't really fit the identity of player
No,
or
it doesn't.
profile
All
of
right.
what Man United are going for. So personally speaking, my own humble opinion anyway, that I think this will be an unlikely move. I think if you look at players like Branthwaite coming in at centre half, these are the types of players that I think will be a lot more
Yeah,
likely to come in.
two-footed Brandtway. And by the way,
Yeah,
if Everton gets relegated, he will be on a cup price as well, what I
yeah,
believe.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for sure, for
Um,
sure.
Todibo is one that we've been heavily linked with from Nice. There's not going to be a mates race from Ineos there, but on the other hand, Todibo is the similar attributes in Willy Kwambala that we already have, which is a French player as well. Um, Another thing, a transfer secret that came up recently was the Boca Junior, sensation, the 17-year-old Aaron Anselmino, that is available on a 15 million release clause. And apparently Real Madrid is also monitoring the situation. Manchester United is heavily interested in him. Have you heard much from your colleagues on Talksports or MEFC BP, regarding this? Because I think that this is a smart move. I think if you're going for the player for 15 million, this is an up and coming, ball playing centre back. I don't know if you've seen him. He's tall, is bloody good on the ball. And what's your take on Anselmino?
Yeah, I think, look, again, it's going to be really interesting to see how Ineos operate, because at the end of the day, this is the profile, as we've been discussing throughout the show today. This does fit the profile of not signing the Virgil van Dijks of the world and trying to find the next one that's going to be put into that category. And it's little risk if we think about it, bringing in someone who's inexperienced and at a cut price. Again, it doesn't put as much pressure on as bringing in an 80 million pound centre half.
Yeah.
There's differences in terms of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think I'd be certainly open to someone like that coming into Manchester United. But I think
Yeah.
there needs to be a fine line between finding the next superstar, but then also having the experience amongst the team to be able
Mm,
to gel. The common
mm.
myth about the class of '92 was that they were all kids. They weren't all kids. There was about six
No.
of them that were youngsters, next to the likes of Pallister and Bruce, who were
Yeah,
absolute
yeah, yeah, yeah,
colossal
yeah.
players. So
100%,
you
100%.
need that blend, you need that mix, and you need that opportunity for young and older players to gel and really become a proper team for then the younger
Okay.
players to pass on to the next generation. So yeah,
That's
be an
interesting that you
interesting one
mentioned.
this.
That's interesting that you mentioned, because I can see the roadmap here. I see if the club keeps, you know, if they keep Raphael Varane, that's experience. You also have Licha, right? But you need two other younger players to come in to play rotation with them, and I can see Brandtwaite to be one of them. An up and coming 20-year-old, 2-footed, can play in both left back, left centre back, and right centre back, and also this Anselmino as well, right? 15 million plus. Brentwaite probably will go for 50 million pounds, depending on what the asking price. I think a lot of clubs are chasing him at the moment. Chelsea will not be able to do anything this summer. Arsenal, I don't think they will. Liverpool is on a rebuild. Potentially, City will come in for it, but we don't know what's going to happen with City. So there might be opportunity for that as well. So let's just park that one. And what do you think in terms of Hodometer? Do you think the club will go for the likes of Jared Brentwaite and Anselmino? Combining those figures, we're looking at spending approximately 70 million on two centre backs.
Yeah, from a financial perspective, it makes sense, especially if you consider the fact that centre halves will leave Manchester United as well for some money. So, yeah,
Yeah.
they make sense. It does, and the mood music I've been listening to and I've been understanding is that the Branthwaite situation is very concrete in terms of the interest from Manchester United. This isn't just paper talk. There have been a lot of admirers at Manchester United, especially under the new Ineos structure, that admire Branthwaite, that see him as the future
Yeah.
of defending in football, and they see him as someone who's going to be not just a future, England regular, but they see him as someone who could be an absolute prominent figure in the Premier
Oh,
League. So
100%. You know how tall it is and good in the air he is and good on the
yeah,
ball.
he's
Like,
commanding. He looks
yeah.
assured. He's strong, and if you bring in players like that in, it's a brilliant sight to see. So yeah, I think the Branthwaite one is going to be likely in terms of Manchester United trying to get him. I think it's very likely that they do go in for him. Whether or not they get him, of course, as you've just said there, Mick, will heavily depend on not only the price tag but also other teams that are going to be potentially interested in him. And if we're being brutally honest, I think if Manchester City and Man United come in for him, I think he's obviously going to pick Manchester City at this moment in time. So,
We don't
like you
know.
said,
We don't know. It's all depending on the project. Depends on
yeah,
the project.
of
Like,
course. And then you're right there, Mick. So, like I said, it really does matter on what teams are going to come in for him, what competition Man United do have.
but
But I think the Branthwaite one is certainly a name to look out for in the summer, and I would probably put
okay.
Elise in that category as well.
Listen, yeah, because just quickly on that one, because as a player, you will look at how many minutes will I get, right? If I
Yeah,
join City, will I sit on the bench? Similar to what you had with Jack Grealish as well. Like, that was a wrong move
yeah.
for him because he's not getting much game time, right? Your competition. If you look at the project with Manchester United at the moment, it's not rebuild. They're going to invest in a lot of youth. I'm going to get minutes. I think that project attracts more than actually going to City, right? People, sorry, we're going over time. If there's about 120 of you watching, if you can get over 100 likes on this video, smash that like button. It looks like a thumb like this because we got to plow on. We got to do 100% move to the midfield position. Anil, you still have a couple of minutes left, please?
Yeah, a couple of minutes. We can push it a few more minutes, no problem, mate.
All right, we push it real good. Midfield, what I've been hearing, it's probably not going to be addressed as a, how do I say, urgency. If there's money left in the end of the window, according to Fabrizio Romano was saying, we will look at it. But who do you see we being linked with? I would love to see a Kobe Mainoo playing and develop as a number 8. I don't see Kobe Mainoo as a number 6. That's my opinion. Kobe Mainoo is the Frankie de Jong future, similar attributes. He's a ball carrier, glider, wow, cool and composed. The serenity in that storm, in that midfield. If, I've been hearing this, but you can confirm that if you have the same notes. If, let's say, Everton gets relegated or for some reason ends up they're already in financial trouble, Omado Umnana is on that list. We're also looking at Fofana and potentially Palhinha from Fulham. Out of those 3, who would you pick?
Oh, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I think the point that you make there is very good in terms of if you were to bring in an Onana, I think that would then allow the license of Amanu to really blossom in terms of what he actually wants to do, if that's going forward, whether that's staying back or whether he wants to do a bit of both, which I'm sure he's more than capable of doing. Then again, like you said, that allows him almost that license to really understand his own game and where he wants to almost picture himself in the future. So, yeah, look, like I said, there's going to be several names that are going to be linked with Man United. There's going to be a very interesting one to really see the type of profile that Man United go for. And as we've both said today, Mick, on this very show, it's going to be heavily dependent on what clubs go down because the calibre of teams that are potentially facing the drop, you look at the likes of Everton, look at teams like this who have got some real gems amongst their ranks. So,
We do.
this could be, again, somewhere where, as you said, and I think you put it quite rightly, is, there could be a bit of a raid on these kind of players. So Man United need to act, and they need to act quickly. If they want to get these players in through the door, then there's going to have to be something of being a bit savvy, which don't really associate Man United with being. But, under this in this new era, then we can almost see and really figure out. I think the one with Palhinha, he's an absolute brilliantly
I love
capable
him.
player, but I'm just not quite sure on his availability in terms of having a cut price or something that would be feasible for Manchester United in their first summer under the new ownership. So I think, as you said there, and quite rightly so, I think striker position and the defence will be more of a priority than the midfield.
Yeah, than the midfield. But that's to be monitored. But João Neves, forget about them. Benfica wants 100 silly money. Forget about them. I don't know, man. Right winger, of course, that's what we said. It's almost nailed on. Is Michael Elise? Like that has been the talk of the town for months and months and months and months. And there's a deal to be made. I think the release clause is about £55 million, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's in the region of that again. And Mick,
Right.
like you said, I think it will be really, really. It's just going to be so dependent on what Ineos have got planned for Manchester United. As you know, I've just having reading the comments. Lucky Singh has been saying, Ratcliffe's PR. That's why I'm holding my breath. His interview said it all. Ratcliffe has promised, and Ineos have promised a lot of things for Manchester United. They've emphasised that they want the best in class in every aspect of every appointment that they make. So if
And
that's the case,
including the stadium, new stadium built for 100
precisely, they
million,
want to have the best
100,000
in
seats.
class
Yeah.
everywhere, absolutely
Yeah.
everywhere.
Okay.
And if
All
that's the
right.
case, then we're going to have to really understand and really sit back and wait and see the type of player they bring in. Are they bringing in the more cost-effective players, or are they genuinely going for the best in class with, of
All
course, the
right.
price in consideration?
Anil, I know we pressed for time. I know you got to shoot.
Yep.
We could have stayed here and spoken for hours and
Yeah.
hours and hours because there's so much to cover. Maybe we should do a follow up. But I just want to continue and end this stream by looking at the secret striker. Of course, everyone is talking about Ivan Toney. I don't think Toney is the right man. I think he's got 1 year left on his contract. Chelsea's looking at him. Arsenal's looking at him. But he's not the right profile player for Manchester United. I don't think United will be in for him. Fabrizio Romano will say there might be an opportunity for United to investigate. But again, it comes down to finding the next Mbappe. So, two players, according to my sources, what they've been saying, and I keep saying one thing: keep your eyes on Benjamin Sesko, right? Keep your eyes for 45 million. Ten Hag wanted him in the January. We couldn't do the deal. A loan deal with an obligation to buy in the summer for 45 million. He's on the market, and a lot of people are looking at him. A lot of clubs are looking at him, but also Xerxes, right? So again, if we're going for that younger talent, because it's also been saying that we don't want to recruit somebody that's better than Højlund because Højlund is the man. We want somebody to challenge Højlund. So if you blew your tire on your car, you literally just want to sort of hop off, put in the spare tire, but it's an equally good tire, but it's a different brand that you can still continue speeding 200k an hour in German autobahn. What's your thoughts and feelings regarding the striker? Do you see Benjamin Sisko being the surprise signing of the summer?
Yeah, for sure. I think this type of player is going to be really, really one to keep an eye on, as you say, not just because of the price, which is more than feasible, but I think, again, as we keep saying, and I think it's very important to keep emphasising, he's the right profile for Ineos. He's a young striker. He's potentially going to be at the club for 7-8 years if it all works out. And if it doesn't, that means he's moved on and hopefully they can get a bit of money for him. So,
Right.
yeah, this is going to be someone, like I say, that fits the profile. And when they fit the profile of Manchester United in terms of their new structure, it's certainly one to keep an eye on. And as you say, the money that they could potentially make of someone like
45
Greenwood,
million.
that could cover Sesko and then leave profit as well on top of that. So, this is again something that I think will be very possible and feasible if Man
I
United, of
think
course, in the market for
I
it.
think that fits a lot of the player profile fits the bill, right? And
Yeah,
he's an up and coming. He's a little bit raw, but you've seen he's been delivering 7
right,
goals
yeah.
and 2 assists coming off the bench. However, we are building a team for the future. We're looking at player under 26 and younger, 45 million, right price, can be done. Activate the release clause. On a hot meter, if you look at the hot meter stage, what's the most? Do you think it's likely if you look at the hot meter?
Yeah, I think it's going to be something there again, Mick. I think it's going to be very difficult for people like you and I to really cover Manchester United in the next couple of
It's
weeks
going
and
to be
months,
busy.
because there's going to be so many things going on, and we really need to start seeing what Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe have got planned.
Right.
But hopefully, anyway, they'll give us a lot more to talk about in
Right.
the coming weeks and months.
I have a question from the audience to say, can United still do business without director and football in place?
I think it will be fairly unlikely that the amount of business will happen if that isn't addressed within the summer. But I think the one big thing will, of course, be someone like Omar Berrada coming in, because ultimately he will be the individual that signs off things. He will be the individual that will confirm or deny any
Yeah.
potential ideas of the manager being changed or any players coming in. So if he's in there, then there will be some more movement, and it's inevitable.
Right.
Man United, irrespective of who's
Yeah.
going to be coming in or not, they will be making
Brilliant.
movement.
Brilliant, because I believe so that the targets has already been identified. Even if they are on garden leave, they still speak, but they're not
Yeah,
actively involved. So they are pushing, Murta to do, to work, travel, establish relationship, go do the deals. But I
Mhm.
think that everything is set, and in the summer when everyone is on board, like, I think we will see a swift, because I've been hearing that United want to do the business quick in the summer, which is very unusual. The proof will be in the pudding. Anil,
Sure.
muchas gracias, senor, for coming in and speaking to us, senor.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it as always. And I just want to apologise as well to the audience. They had a lot of questions, but there was so much to go through, Mick. So I'll be sure to come on in the coming weeks again and we can really dive into the comments and
Listen,
we'll take from there. But thank you very much for having me. I really
just
enjoyed
before
it.
you leave, when can people find you? And I don't mean stalk you, literally
Yeah,
outside
I'm
your
not going to give my
mailbox.
home address or my bank account away just yet, but I think, look, my name's at the bottom of the screen there, Anil Kandola. You type that into Twitter, you type that into Instagram, you'll find me, you'll find my work, not only with Talk Sport, but MUFC, MPB. We're across a lot of things of Manchester United, as are you, Mick. So keep up the brilliant work. Thank you to everyone who's
Thank
watched
you, sir.
today. And of course, as I always say, much appreciated, and I really enjoyed it, Mick. Thanks once again.
Enjoy and enjoy your recording with MUFC
Thank you
BP
very
as well,
much.
my friend. Thank you, Anil Kandola. Thank you for seeing. See you to the next video. Bye for now, Anil.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Guys, that was Anil. We were supposed to have a 30 minutes conversation that ended up going in 55 minutes. So we do apologize, Anil, for taking your time. But it is like this when you speak about Manchester United's future. It is quite obvious by hearing the plan for Manchester United. In summary, United are looking to sign players that is under the age bracket of 26, that are not looking for to spend on the next Mbappes, with Omar Berrada at the helm, Dan Ashworth coming in, Wilcox, and the potential new head of recruitment. I've been hearing there might be a Julian Ward. We are looking at maximum paying 65 million per player in each position. But I think that's smart business. And I think that this is something that United, as a fan, that we've been crying out for, right? I know it's not perfect. I know it's going to take a few windows to get the deadwood out, but I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments section if you watching this. What is your general feeling? Do you think that we are heading towards the right direction? But as Sir Jim Ratcliffe saying, it's not like a switch of a light switch like that. Things will happen overnight. I think that the outs is very important. Will dictate in who comes in. But as what we said, we are looking at the two centre backs, which is Jared Brentwaite and also this Boca Junior 17-year-old kid on 15 million, Aaron Anselmino as well. In terms of left back, we didn't really dive into it, but we spoke about players from Fulham. There might be something in it with Tyrel Malacia being injured for a long time, that we are actually looking for a Malacia replacement. I don't really understand what's going on there, and I feel so sorry for him. It seems like a damning career-ending injury, if you read into it. And we didn't speak much about Luke Shaw. Will he be moved on with his injuries? But it's a lot of things to talk about. At the end of the day, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions. Big up for coming in here. Thank you for tuning in as per usual. And sorry for not being able to answer your questions. It was me trying to get the transfer secrets out, Anil Kandola. And of course, we are 9 games left in the Premier League and we're playing a semi-final at Wembley. It's going to be a very exciting, busy summer. I'm looking forward to cover this transfer window. And I believe the Manchester United are turning the page. So big up for all of you. And Ivo Bosic is saying Malacia is done. Knowing our medical staff, they turned a sprain into amputation. Not to joke about it, but it is serious. It's been kept in the dark, and we all know our medical department is so inept. We see numerous of case studies, and if you look at Arsenal's Timber, right? They recruited him. He got done for ACL knee injury, out for the rest of the season. At least they've been giving us some snippets. Malacia was told, Ten Hag was told that Malacia will come back in January by the medical staff, hence why he got rid of Delaney in terms of, what's his name? Spurs, Regulon, right? But at the end of the day, they gave the green light. He came on and something happened in that training ground, which we don't really know. We also heard by Casemiro and the conflicts with the medical staff that they greenlight his injury, even if he was feeling the hamstring. So he went to seek a second opinion for Barcelona, and they say you have an injury. So it's been a little bit of a shambolic, people. I know it's not been easy to be a Manchester United fan this season. All we can do right now is just to hope that we'll finish strong. We're playing Brentford on Saturday, and then we have a very difficult away game against Chelsea. Then we're playing Liverpool, I think, at home as well. So I believe that we can only look at ourselves, players coming back from the international break, so focus, and Premier League is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's how you finish. This has been Mick Ruby here, having my say, speaking to Anil Kandola. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel. And please hit that notification button. Make it personalized so you never miss an upload or a live video from us. Until then, people, thank you for tuning in. It's been brilliant to see you in the VR room, and we should see you to the next video. And we'll be back tomorrow, by the way, with Andy Tate and Vicky and myself. So big up for all of you. Thank you. And again, have a lovely, lovely rest of your Tuesday. Bye for now. Glory, glory, Manchester United. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching Mufc Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.